Welcome to Steve Savant's Money, the name of the game. Hi everyone, I'm your host, Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and money game extraordinaire. Today we're asking the question, is an index annuity worth looking at? With nationally recognized annuity expert, Mike McGlothlin. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks for having me.
I get email all the time from consumers who watch our show and say, Steve, I'm being always pushed by different people about index annuities. I hear I hate index annuities. I see these people putting full page ads. Then I have other people saying, no, it's the way to go. Mike, you've been in this business for a long time. You know this product well. I know that there'll always be products that are not really good to look at, and there'll always be some that are really excellent. But get us down the middle and walk us through what is an index annuity, and should that be part of a senior's portfolio?
Well, it's difficult to say for everybody, but I would say that just about everybody can afford to have a portion of their portfolio in a fixed indexed annuity for that safety portion of the portfolio. There are a lot of advantages of doing it. First of all, a fixed indexed annuity is just what it says. It's a fixed annuity. Therefore, there's no downside market risk as long as you hold it through the surrender charge period. You cannot lose any money.
If I was comparing these like to a certificate of deposit, if I have a CD for 5 years, I don't lose any money. If I took it out early now, I would lose my interest to credit it. But if I hold to an index annuity for the same, let's say, 5-year period, if I hold to that, whatever the contract says, I'm going to be able to receive it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you'd be able to turn that into a lifetime income that you could never outlive.
Now, when we talk about annuities, just let's talk about generically, there's a tax deferral power to this, because if I'm a CD holder, I'm paying taxes every year, whether I use the money or not. But if I hold my tax deferred annuity, I'm letting my account accumulate, and the longer I hold it, the better on my
wider that gap
gets. So right there on an annuity, I only have to pay taxes when I actually use it, which I think is a huge issue. Now, regular fixed annuities might be at 2.25 right now, which still beats the bank. But an index gives me a little more upside potential. But I thought I heard you say I can't lose money.
You cannot lose money year after year. So even if the index goes down, you are locked in at what that original dollar amount was. And the nice thing about a fixed index annuity is that if the market does correct on you, like it did in 2008 and 2009, went down by 40%, so the S&P went from 1,000 down to 600, you start the next year at 600. Even though that your account balance is still that $100,000, you start clocking your dollar amount to that 600-point value. So if it went up by 25%, your account would grow by 25%, subject to the caps and limitations and participation rates. But if you had been in a variable annuity or a mutual fund, you would have had gains and tax consequences on capital gains inside a mutual fund and still been below your original principal. It's not the case with a fixed indexed annuity.
Boy, I wish we had time to talk about just that capital gain tax issue on regular funds. When we come back from the break, I want to talk about some of the things that you just said, because you said caps, limitation, participation rates, spreads. We want to make sure that our people know this, and our viewers kind of get an understanding, because it's all going to be part of the purchasing process and whether you're going to buy an index annuity or not. We'll be right back.
Take a close look at your hard-earned dollar. How do you think your money's doing? Are you keeping an eye on it? Is it protected from taxes, inflation, and market risk? Over time, those Washingtons could become Franklins. With tax-advantaged indexed universal life, from one of the largest distributors of indexed universal life, Ash Brokerage.
Well, welcome back to our second segment. We're with Mike McGlothlin, a nationally recognized annuity expert, and we're talking about index annuities. Is that something you should look at? When we talk about it in the second segment, though, I want to talk, he kind of mentioned some rapid fire things. I want to talk about those things. There are index annuities. We know now we can't lose any money, but there's some restrictions, it seems like, if I heard you correctly, on how much we could make. Talk about that. Caps first.
Sure. In order for an insurance company to protect your premium deposit, it buys some financial instruments to limit the upside in order to protect you on the downside. So in order to maintain a 0% loss, that you may only participate in today's current interest rates environments of 4 to 5% of the market index as it increases. However, when you compare that to a 1-year CD right now at 25 basis points on a taxable basis, versus the opportunity to get 4 to 5. An indexed annuity makes a lot of sense for a lot of people that are in a long-term buy and hold position.
So that's caps. Now I've noticed some of them have what's called, they don't have caps, they have a thing called participation rates. It's a percentage of the gain that the contract could have had. Talk a little about that.
Yeah, it's exactly what Steve said, that basically if you have a 10% gain and a 40% participation rate, then your interest credited to your annuity is 4%. And again, what's important to remember about a fixed indexed annuity isn't that it's necessarily linked to an index or anything. It is just a different way of crediting interest rates on a fixed annuity. Instead of having a static interest rate dictated by the carrier, you are now linked to an unmanaged index that the insurance carrier cannot control, and that adds to client centricity.
Now, when we talk about participation, I'm thinking just like my consumers are probably thinking right now, gee, is there any 100% participation?
Yeah, there are 100% participations. When you look back 15 years ago, there were actually 105% participation when I was out wholesaling, when interest rates were much healthier than they are right now. However, now is still a great time to purchase a fixed annuity. There are uncapped strategies. What you do to protect yourself on a pricing standpoint is that you do have a spread of somewhere between 2 to 3%. And what that means for you as an interest holder is that for the first 2 to 3%, you're not going to get anything credited to your account, but you'll never go backwards. However, once that index exceeds that 3% spread, then you have unlimited upside potential. So if you have an index that performs at 11% and your spread was 3, then you earned 8% in that particular year. Now the next year you may only get 4 on the index and you may only credit 1, but over long periods of time that has an opportunity to outpace CDs and other taxable conservative investments.
Well, this is kind of a conservative investment. If I can't lose any money, there's some protectionist issues going up. Now, we don't participate in the dividends. Is that correct? There's no dividend participation in these products.
That is correct. It's just the point value of the indices. And so you can look into your local newspaper, look at the S&P 500, compare the point values from one year over the other, and the difference is the gain in your contract subject to those limitations that we just spoke about.
One last thing before we leave. You said lifetime income. I could take this annuity and I could actually turn it into an income stream for my life?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's one of the biggest things for annuities, that with today's longevity and uncertainty and Americans' #1 fear is outliving their income, you can take any annuity here in the U.S. and annuitize that and gain a monthly check for as long as you live. You have control over your options, whether you want to have it with your spouse or somebody else. It's a great opportunity, and there are great tax advantages to doing an annuity like that.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I want to thank Mike McGlothlin for being my special guest in today's Money Mentor. Keep in mind, before moving forward with any ideas we've talked about on this show, always consult your tax advisor and your legal counsel. And remember, as the good Reverend John Wesley once said, make all you can, save all you can, give all you can. I'm Steve Savant. See you next week.